Recorded Books presents Child of Grace by Irene Hannon. Narrated by Thérèse Plummer. Chapter 1. Someone had invaded his territory. Frowning, Luke Turner stopped halfway down the 40 wooden steps that led to what was supposed to be a private beach on the shores of Lake Michigan. The brim of a large floppy hat peaked above the wide swath of tall grass between the base of the steps and the open sand, and it was low to the ground, meaning the woman who owned it was sitting, not just pausing to admire the view while strolling by. A definite breach of etiquette in this part of the world. Stifling a sigh, he resettled the frame of his chair on his shoulder, took a sip of coffee from his mug, and resumed his descent. Starting his visit to Pier Cove with a confrontation held zero appeal, especially after all the conflict he'd seen during his 10 years as an Army doctor. All he wanted to do on this trip was reacclimate to civilian life, complete one final mission before heading home to Atlanta and the ER job that awaited him, and chill. And he'd planned to do much of that chilling on his private beach. At the bottom of the steps, he stopped again to take another sip of coffee. If the information Mark had provided when he'd offered his house as a getaway was correct, the woman was clearly trespassing. According to his friend, the house next door that shared this beach had been unoccupied since the owner died last fall. Luke was well within his rights to tell the trespasser to move on. And maybe this would be easy. It was possible she was a vacationer who didn't know that most Michigan beaches were private. If so, he could direct her to the public beach a short stroll away. Then he could enjoy this sunny Saturday morning in peaceful isolation. Plan in hand, he followed the narrow path through the swaying grass and stepped onto the sand. The interloper was angled slightly away from him, seated in a beach chair, her long legs stretched in front of her, a pair of flip-flops askew in the sand, as if she'd kicked them off. She was wrapped in a gaudy beach towel to ward off the morning chill Mark had warned him was common on the lake shore, even in mid-July, and her eyes were hidden behind sunglasses. Shoulder-length blonde hair peeked beneath the brim of her hat, and her head was bent as she perused a book. Beside her, a thermos was stuck into the top of an overflowing beach bag, and she was juggling a mug of coffee in one hand. In other words, she was settled in for the duration. Bracing himself, Luke cleared his throat. At the sound, the woman jerked toward him. The coffee sloshed out of her mug, and she yelped as the hot liquid splashed onto her skin. Luke took a step forward. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you." Keeping a wary eye on him, she dumped the rest of her coffee into the sand and struggled out of the low-slung chair. The book slid off her lap as she rose, and the towel slipped from around her shoulders. She grabbed it, but not before he got a clear look at her rounded figure. She was pregnant. Very pregnant. And perhaps unmarried. Her empty ring finger was front and center as she readjusted the towel around her shoulders and clutched it in front of her. So was the pink spot on the back of her other hand. He took another step toward her, assessing the burn. "Cold water will—" She stumbled back, almost tripping over her chair on the uneven sand. He stopped. So did she, but she scanned the beach as if seeking help. Despite the large hat that shadowed her face and her concealing dark glasses, her fear came through loud and clear. Not just leftover fear from being startled, but panic almost. She seemed poised to flee, as if she thought he might become violent. Did his demeanor convey anger? Maybe. More than one medic had told him he was intimidating, especially when aggravated. Plus, at 6'1", he usually had a height advantage in any confrontation. And today he had a big one. The woman across from him couldn't be more than 5.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?